All right, guys, what is going on? Here to talk about a pretty interesting 6-game slate. I think this one's fun for tournaments. Again, I mentioned in my video last night that this last week winding down of the regular season, not necessarily sure if I'm a cash game player, if I'm going to go crazy, but for GPPs, I think there's this slate or this last week kind of excites me. I know there's going to be some tilting stuff, obviously, with coaches doing random benching or stuff like that, but I think there is a bigger edge in this last week. So excited to talk about this slate. So if you guys are new to the channel, how this works is we'll take a look at what we know so far. So let's go over it. Brad Beal is out. We'll talk about Washington here in a sec. Now, some might not think this is super important, but Cam Oliver signed a contract with the Rockets. I haven't seen anything on whether or not he's going to be available, but like if he is, that's one more body. Plus, we're waiting on Kellyo and Christian Wood. So like, is pretty significant, actually, to keep an eye on that. Steven Adams is doubtful. Kevin Love out. Garland out. Shetty out. And Hartenstein out. So the Cavs are thin. I believe they have 9 healthy bodies. That was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We're still waiting on a starting lineup. We'll go over some Cavs guys. They're going to be popular. A couple of the value guys. Let's see. All the Raptors guys are resting once again for tomorrow. And, DeAndre Hunter game time decision. So that could be, maybe a few less minutes for guys like Bogdan Bogdanovic, maybe John Collins. Unfortunately for the Celtics, Jaylen Brown going to be out for the season. That kind of, kills any hope they had. Garrison Matthews is starting for Brad Beal. Ugh. I just knew Scott Brooks is going to do this. I knew it. I really don't like playing Garrison Matthews. He could play 30 minutes and go for 10 fancy points. Is he out of play? No, but it's not something I feel good about. Okay, so Cavs are starting Dotson, Sexton, Okoro, Wade, and Allen, and they're actually listing Damian Dotson at the point guard. So, I think Dotson and Dean Wade are pretty solid value plays here. So we'll go over that in a sec, but let's talk about the Vegas odds. So Pacers and Cavs, a 228.5 over under. Pacers 9.5 point favorites. Wizards and Hawks, a 237.5 over under. The Hawks 8.5 point favorites. That one's obviously, potential to shoot out. Pelicans and Grizzlies, a 229.5 over under. The Grizz 9.5 point favorites. Bucks and Spurs, a 223.5 over under. Bucks 7 point favorites. Rockets and Blazers. This game, I think, is really a good GPP game. Like, you could stack this game up. The tricky part is we're waiting on news right now. So it's like, you could take the risk and hope that like Wood and Olynyk are out and Cam Oliver's not available to play and they have 8 healthy bodies, and you just stack the game. You play KJ Martin, you play Kyrie Thomas, you play a couple of Rockets value, you run it back with like one of the guards, maybe Nurkic, because if that game stays close, it could shoot out at pretty low ownership. So that game really intrigues me for GPPs. And then Jazz Warriors at 226 over under. The Jazz 2-point favorites. All right, so let's start off with Washington, Atlanta. A game you're going to want some exposure to. Again, Westbrook, it's like, do I even have to talk about him? Right, you guys know what to do here. But there's value plays we got to go over. So we'll start with Ruri Hashimura at 4.9K. I think he's one of the best plays of the slate. And I don't know if he's going to be super popular. We got to remember, okay, when Beal was out earlier this season, Ruri Hashimura was over 7K. And he was getting it done, right? He was getting 35 to 40 fancy points a night. Now he's at 4.9. No limit. Great matchup. Should play about 35 minutes. Like, am I missing something? I think Ruri's one of the best plays of the slate. Absolutely love Ruri Hashimura there at 4.9K. Scrolling down a bit more, rolling that to 4.5, I think is a fair option. Minutes have been a little bit more up and down on him. Does he play more without Beal? I think it's definitely a possibility. So Neto is someone I'm looking to for value. Not a must, though. Not a must. I would feel more comfortable with a guy like Ruri. The center rotation, if you want to take a dart in Gafford, Len, or Robin Lopez, go for it. It just, there's no rhyme or reason to the rotation. And it's not something I really want to risk on the slate because there's already a lot of solid value. So I don't know if it's worth it. I will say probably one of those centers has a good game. Again, though, good luck if you're targeting one of those guys. Moving on to Davos Bertans. I also think he's a pretty solid play. Now, a guy I don't like playing because he's scoring dependent, but he played 35, 34 minutes the last couple games. Now, I know those are overtime games, so about 30 in regulation, but 30 minutes out of a guy at 3.7, someone's got to score the ball besides Westbrook, right? So I think guys like Rui, guys like Bertans, these are guys that can score the ball. I like some Davos Bertans value. I think Ish Smith is fine off the bench. Maybe instead of like 19 to 20 minutes, he plays like 25. A fair value if you want to use him in GPPs. Garrison Matthews, you can play him. Minutes, I'm not convinced he's going to play a ton. I think we've seen this with Scott Brooks a lot, where like he'll insert someone in the starting lineup, like an Anthony Gill last week, and he plays like 15 minutes. So I think there's a chance Garrison Matthews only plays like 15 minutes. I also think if he plays well and shoots well, maybe he pushes for 30. So like the range of outcomes for his minutes is pretty wide. Not someone I necessarily trust in a cash game setting, but if you want to take a shot on him for GPPs, I'm not going to talk you off him. That's probably it. I don't think I get to anyone else here for the Wizards. Let's talk about the Atlanta Hawks. And I think Trae Young's going to be popular in this slate. I think it's for good reason. I really like Trae Young. Should play 35 minutes. I mean, the Wizards play absolutely no defense. So, and Trae, we know his upside. So I like Trae Young a good amount. I think he's viable in both formats. He does still have a somewhat low floor, but the upside I think is really high on Trae. Now, guys like Capella and Bogdanovich I think are firmly in play for GPPs as well. Capella, we haven't seen the upside recently, but it's there. He can go for 50 plus, and he should be able to feast against his front court. I know he's been bad recently, but recency bias, don't mind taking a dart at him in GPPs. Bogdanovich playing big minutes, maybe loses a few if DeAndre Hunter ends up playing, but I still think he's an interesting pivot. If I think everyone is going to use the Westbrook Trae Young pairing, I'm fine going to Westbrook Bogdanovich, right? I think that is interesting. You save like $2,500, and you're going to get a much lower owned Bogdan that still has upside playing alongside Trae Young. So I'm intrigued by Bogdan. I think everyone that is going to go to this game is going to pair Westbrook with Trae Young, but I don't mind going to Bogdan instead. And then Collins, I think, is a fine play in the mid-range just because the matchup. Minutes been a little bit more up and down, but he's still a guy that if he gets 25 to 30 minutes could definitely pay off that salary. DeAndre Hunter at 4.7. We just got news he will play. Literally just got that, right? Or did I miss that? Steven Adams, doubtful. NAW, similar minutes. Okay. Oh, I did just pass it. Okay, so he will play. All right, so I don't have interest in DeAndre Hunter. What I think that does is to make guys like Gallinari, Herter, a little bit riskier. I still think Gallinari's viable, but maybe he loses some minutes. Not really looking to Herter now. Bogdan maybe loses a couple minutes, so it's maybe slightly riskier. But, yeah, doesn't do a ton for me. All right, guys, so where are we at? We're already over 300 viewers and 62 likes. If you're just coming in, if you could, leave a like button. That does help me out a ton. Trae Streaky, I agree. Trae Young does have a somewhat low floor. Again, I think he's going to be popular, so I think there's merit to fading him. I think he's a scary fade, but definitely not a must. Like, he's not a Westbrook in the slate. You don't have to play Trae Young. I just think he's going to be the popular bring back for people that are stacking this game. All right, Indiana and Cleveland. So on the Pacers side, there's no priority play here. Brogdon's still out. Sabonis and LeVert, I mean, this is the offense, right? And they're playing massive minutes. Should both play, Sabonis about 40. LeVert probably pushes for 35 plus. LeVert will play the point guard a ton. I mean, 12 and 8 assists last couple games to LeVert. The only thing I will say, even though Cleveland is bad, they play a little bit at a slower pace, so it's not like they're playing the Wizards here, but still, I think LeVert and Sabonis are decent GPP pivots off of some of the chalk today. The rest of the Pacers value, I'm probably not going to get to anyone else. Brissett's too pricey. McConnell's is not getting the minutes. McDermott, Sumner are fine contrarian value plays. You know the drill with McDermott. Probably 25 to 30 minutes. Has to hit his shots. He kind of upside if he's hitting his shots, but again, relying on the scoring. And then Sumner is fine too. Probably plays 25 to 30 minutes, but there's no priority value plays here. All right, now let's move on to Cleveland. This is a team that... It pains me to say, but you're going to have some interest here. You're going to have to. So we'll start with Sexton at the top. I think it's a fine tournament play. I would rather get to other spin-ups in the slate, but he'll be low-owned. Jared Allen at 6'8", it's a viable play in the mid-range. He's been inconsistent this year, and I think I prefer getting to the Cleveland value, but don't be surprised if Jared Allen goes for 40-plus in a matchup like this. So I think he's a viable tournament play. Okoro is fine. I just don't like playing him. He's been a pretty low-usage guy. The two value guys I want to talk about here. All right, I'm just preparing myself because it makes me a little bit sick. But, yeah, Dean Wade at 3.4K. I think it's one of the better value plays. He's been really bad last couple starts, 30 and 29 minutes, 11 and 15 fantasy points. But this is the Indiana Pacers who play no defense. He's starting. It's a 9-man rotation. I think we'll get 30 to 35 minutes from him. I think he's a pretty solid value play. Also, Damian Dotson, flat min and is starting. I think it's a really solid value. So Dotson and Dean Wade, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think they're two of the better value plays of the slate. Now, if you want to get, contrarian, take a shot on someone off the bench, you can take a shot on a guy like Kabengele, who played 23 minutes, mostly in garbage time. Maybe you play old man Anderson Varejao. Nothing more than dart throws, though, in tournaments. The guys I want to focus on are Dotson and Dean Wade. And I think they're actually both pretty good value plays. Yeah, I like them both. All right, New Orleans and Memphis. So on the New Orleans side, Zion out, Ingram out, Hart out. Lonzo Ball, my issue with Lonzo is I played him last slate. He was popular. He only played 30 minutes. No foul trouble, nothing like that. So I'm worried about the minutes. If he's only going to play 30 minutes, I have no interest in Lonzo. Now, maybe the minutes go up here, but yeah, not good to see that he only played 30 the last game. NAW is still too pricey. Bledsoe's had a couple big games. I don't mind going to him. Might prefer going to Bledsoe over Lonzo. He's playing more minutes and is cheaper right now. The two centers, Hernangomez and Jackson Hayes, are firmly in play. Hernangomez, they're going to split the center minutes pretty evenly. Hernangomez played 22 minutes last game, had a good game. Jackson Hayes has been phenomenal recently. 6 blocks and a steal last game, went for 42. Back-to-back 40 bombs for Jackson Hayes. They're both viable for value. Just be careful of a guy like Hayes. I think he might be a little bit over-owned. Like, he's not going to go for 8 stocks a game. So I do think he's a solid value, but might be a little bit over-owned. Najee Marshall, 5K. The minutes just haven't been there. 27 minutes is not enough for me to get really excited at 5K price. James Johnson at 4-6, 26 and 31. I don't think he's going to be as popular, but still, I think we get 25 to 30, a guy that can stuff a stat sheet in an up-tempo game. I do have some interest in James Johnson for value. That's about it, though. All right, moving on to Memphis. One of my favorite tournament plays of the slate. Mentioned it last slate, and he was 1%. Jonas Valanciunas. The reason being, this is no longer a guy that's playing 26 to 28 minutes a game. He's playing 35 plus. He played 36 in a close game there against Toronto, 32 in Detroit that a game blew out, 35 against the Knicks in a close game, 20 where he fouled out. We know JV is a phenomenal point per minute guy. If he's going to play 35 minutes here against the likes of Guillermo Hernangomez and Jackson Hayes, don't be surprised if JV breaks the slate and goes for 60 plus. So I really like Jonas Valanciunas in tournaments. John Morant, viable as well. I would rather play JV. He's just been the better point per minute guy. Ja has upside, but been way more inconsistent. Triple J, if he starts, I think he's firmly in play. The only thing you have to worry about with Triple J is foul issues, and he's always in foul trouble. So that is the concern with Triple J. But if he plays 30 minutes here, you could see a 40 bomb from Triple J. So I have interest in him. The rest of the Grizzlies, probably not so much. And guys like Slow-Mo, Dylan Brooks, I don't really want to touch the value here for Memphis. So let's move on to Milwaukee and San Antonio. On the Milwaukee side, Giannis Antetokounmpo, I think, is a decent spend up. I think he's going to go a little bit lower owned on this slate. Now, did only play 29 minutes in a close game against Houston. Didn't come back in. That was a little bit concerning, but maybe it was just, the Rockets, they just didn't care. They knew they were going to win the game anyway. If he plays 35 plus minutes here, I think Giannis Antetokounmpo obviously is a solid spend up. So I've interested in him. I'm not going to get to anyone else though on the Bucks. Moving on to the Spurs, it's 3 guys: DeRozan, Murray, Pirtle. DeRozan and Murray also going to go lower owned, but if this game stays close, we know why, right? It's these two. Both should play 35 minutes in a close one. Milwaukee, they're a good team, but they play fast, so this could be a shootout. Murray, DeRozan, I like for GPPs, and Jakob Pirtle I think is a little bit too cheap at 5.2. If we're going to get over 30 minutes from him, which I think we will, he's a decent point per minute guy. I think Pirtle is intriguing at 5.2. And then a couple tournament value plays, guys like Rudy Gay, Lonnie Walker, even Keldon Johnson. Like, the minutes aren't going to be massive in these guys, but I would say probably one of those value guys is a good game. If you want to use them as contrarian value, that's perfectly fine. All right, we got 2 games left. Let's refresh, see if we get any more news, and then we can finish it up and get to questions. We are already at 90 likes, guys, so appreciate it. Close to 400 viewers as well. All right, Utah and Golden State. So Utah, no real interest in Rudy Gobert at 8.5. Clarkson and Bojan Bogdanovic, it's the same thing. Both these guys are like for tournaments. They do have a somewhat low floor because both these guys have been a little bit more reliant in the scoring. But like them both for GPPs and up-tempo game. I think my favorite play, though, is Joe Ingles at 6.3. The prices come down enough to a point where I think this is too cheap. If we get 30 to 35 minutes from Joe Ingles running the point a lot in this matchup, yeah, I'm good with that. So I think Joe Ingles is a pretty safe play. Guys like Royce O'Neal and Yang are fine value options. Neither priority plays, but as the last piece in, they're okay. Again, up-tempo game, Royce should get about 30. Yang probably about 25 minutes. Fine value plays. We can knock Kentucky off them. On the Golden State side, I think Steph Curry is a really good tournament play. Obviously, it's not going to be as chalky as Russell Westbrook. I think he'll be somewhat low owned because of the matchup, but he's been on fire, and if this game stays competitive, we're going to get 35-plus minutes from Steph, so do like Steph a good amount for tournaments. Kind of the same with Draymond Green. Don't love the matchup, but he should play 35-plus minutes. So those two, I think, are good tournament plays. I'm probably not going to get to anything else here from Golden State. No thinking Wiggins, no thinking Bazemore or Juan Toscano-Anderson. That's about it for Golden State. All right, finishing up with Houston and Portland. So this one's a little bit tricky right now, right? So we had the guy they just signed. We're not sure if he's going to be available. Also, Wood and Kelly Olynyk we're not sure of yet. Assuming both Wood and Olynyk are out, and this is another 8-man rotation, then this is a team you're going to want some exposure to, right? So starting with, I think we've got to start with KJ Martin. I think he'd be my favorite play if everyone that's questionable is out. He should play 40 minutes in an up-tempo game. He's gone for basically 3 straight 50 fantasy point games. I like KJ Martin a lot, assuming both those guys are out. Jayshawn Tate also almost had a triple-double, only 29 minutes, but he obviously gets a pretty big boost. And then Kyrie Thomas, he played really well off the bench. I think we probably get close to 30 minutes from him, a guy that can stuff the stat sheet. So those 3, I think, look really solid. And then you can mix and match value with guys like Brooks, Jeffries, Lamb. I'm a little bit worried about House and Augustine based on the last minutes. House 16 to 18 minutes last couple games. Augustine played under 20, really tilted me after playing 29 the previous game. So those guys are a little bit riskier. But if you want to take shots on guys like Lamb, Jeffries, Brooks, that's perfectly fine, right? This is an 8-man rotation. You're probably going to want some Houston exposure. And then finishing up, I will say, if one of Wood or Olynyk are in, whoever does play, I would like a good amount. If they're both in, then that makes it tricky. Then I'm not really on the value for Houston. Then just in general, I think they're nothing more than contrarian plays. And finally, Portland. So, again, this is a team I think will be low owned because everyone's worried about the blowout. But if this game can stay close, you could see some massive scores out of like Lillard, CJ, the Bosnian Beast, Yusuf Nurkic. So Lillard and CJ, I like a good amount for tournaments. Nurkic, I think, is my favorite player on the Blazers, as he usually is. I mean, he is just absolutely crushed in a couple blowouts here. Against Cleveland, 21 minutes, 42 fantasy points. Against the Spurs, 21 minutes, 37 fantasy points. I mean, realistically, if this game somehow stays close and Nurkic plays like 32 minutes, he could go for 60. So I like Nurkic a lot here for tournaments. There obviously is the blowout risk, but he is a great point per minute guy. And if there's no Wood, no Kel, I mean, he's going to be matched up against like KJ Martin and Jayshawn, like he's just gonna be able to feast, right? So I like Nurkic a lot for GPPs. Paul Covington are fine as part of a game stack, but nothing really stands out there. If you want like a large field tournament play, you can take a shot at Enes Kanter. We know he's a good point per minute guy. If this game blows out, maybe he plays a little bit more. So that is where I'm at right now, guys, for this 6-game slate. Got about 10 minutes left for some questions, so let's do it. Let's see, any more news? Nothing else. All right. So throw some questions in the chat. What about Kanter? Yeah, Kanter, fine tournament play. Not someone I'm looking to for cash games, but if the game blows out, he might put a little bit more. We know he's a good point per minute guy. I'm okay with that, for sure. Wiggins or Murray? It's going to be DeJounte Murray for me there. Nurkic and J-Val, percent on... yeah. Westbrook, Sabonis, LeVert, good for cash. I don't know if I play Sabonis and LeVert in cash games today. Westbrook, Dotson, Matthews, Ruri, Wade, Ish Smith, Giannis, and Curry. Is that viable? It's viable. Like it's complete stars and scrubs. I mean, the value you got in there, I'm fine with all those guys. Capella, JV, or Draymond on DK. For me, it's going to be Jonas Valanciunas there. James Johnson or Anthony Lamb, last man in. Right now, it's James Johnson just because we don't know about the Rockets. Lamb had an awful game last game, but if that's an 8-man rotation, then it would be a pretty close call. But right now, I'm just going to side with James Johnson. We kind of know he's going to play 25 to 30 minutes. Russ at 12.4. I think you play him on FanDuel. I don't think you fade. Yeah, Dotson or Ish Smith. Definitely Dotson for me. 6.6K for utility. Let's take a look. It's tough because we just don't know the Rockets news right now. I'll say Ingles. I'll say Ingles for now. But if like all those guys ended up ruled out for Houston, I'd probably go KJ Martin. Nurkic, 6% Joe. Yeah, I expect both those guys to be low owned. I like them a good amount for tournaments. JV or Steph. I mean, if price doesn't matter, Steph. But I think if JV gets 35 minutes tonight, he's a really good tournament play. Favorite cheap options for 4K and under. I think you got the Cleveland guys. So the Cleveland guys look pretty solid. Let's see. I'm trying to think what else. The Cleveland guys. Niang's fine. Bertans is fine. So... I mean, there's not a ton of like really good plays below 4K. Capella or JV? For me, it's JV. Dame or Trey, I think it's got to be Trey just because that game can stay, like, if you're talking optimal play, I think it's got to be Trey because that team should not blow out. Y'all sleeping on Bucks Spurs game. That game will be low owned. I don't mind it as part of a contrarian game stack, but I don't think it's optimal. What's the spread in Portland, Houston? It's 14.5 right now. Yeah, West, I don't know. I just don't know why they don't price him up, but whatever. Giannis or Sabonis? Yeah, it's a tough one. Probably Giannis. Top fade of the slate? Yeah. Again, I don't really know if maybe Giannis, I guess. You in the top shot queue? I'm in the queue. Yep, I'm in there. Sexton, if he plays regardless of blowout, up-tempo match. Yeah, I think he's a fine tournament play. I think if you're talking about like an optimal build, you want to look to more of the value, right? Because the value looks pretty solid. Martin, Jeffries, and Thomas and Rockets, good plays or too much Houston. It depends on Wood, Olynyk, and who's the guy that recently signed? I mean, they signed a guy. I'm not sure if he's available. It was earlier in the day. I don't remember. I would have to scroll back up. But yeah, if he's not available and Olynyk and Wood are not available, then I'm fine with 3 Houston guys. Because, again, it's going to be an 8-man rotation with Augustine and Daniel House probably playing like 15 to 20 minutes each. Would you go Sabonis or Steph? Yeah, it's a tough one. I think Steph's got, I don't know. Sabonis has gone for 70 3 last 5 games. That one's basically a coin flip for me. I don't know if I have a take on that. Capella or Colin Sexton? Probably Sexton. Okay, I just missed a super chat from Tori. Thank you again for all the support. Westbrook, Dotson, DeRozan, Ruri, JV, Lonnie, Wade, Nurkic. I could see James Johnson. I go James Johnson, Murray instead of Lonnie, DeMar DeRozan, debating on that pivot. DeRozan and Lonnie together is definitely a contrarian pairing. Maybe prefer the James Johnson, DeJounte Murray one. Because I don't know if I want to play 2 Spurs in this slate. So, yeah, I think everything else looks solid. Again, Nurkic, I think if that game stays close, could crush. Capella or DeRozan? I think DeRozan for cash, Capella for tournaments. Jackson Hayes or O'Neal. If you have the upsides, Jackson Hayes. Thoughts on Desmond Bane? Probably not for me with their value in the slate. Cash center, Pirtle. I think you can do Pirtle. I think in a close game, 30-ish minutes, so that's fine with me. Trey and Bertans or Bledsoe and Nurkic. Probably the first one. Which Bogdanovic has a better game? I'll go the Atlanta Bogdanovic. JV or Bosnian Beast. I think the safer one is JV. That game has less blowout risk, but I like both as GPP center plays. Any Armani Brooks love? Yeah, I think you can mix and match the Houston value if it's an 8-man rotation. I think the first guys look to are obviously like KJ Martin, Jayshawn Tate, maybe even a Kyrie Thomas, but mix and match the rest of the guys like Brooks, Lamb, right? Daquan Jeffries. Utility 5K and under. All right, let's take a look. 5K and under for utility. Yeah, it's going to be Ruri for me at 4.9. Cantor or Keldon? I think both are tournament plays. I think I prefer the upside in Cantor, though. Bogdan or Nurkic? Again, I think Bogdan is probably safer just because that game has less blowout risk, but I do like Nurkic for tournaments. The issue is the blowout risk, so depends on if you're willing to take that risk. Gobert or JV? For me, it's JV. For me, it's yeah. If you're high in Gobert, go for it. I would rather play an offensive center like Jonas Valanciunas. I just think it's a lot more upside. Like with Gobert, he can go for 50 plus, but he needs one of those games where he goes for like 5+ blocks. Ingles or Martin. So right now it's Ingles, but if all those guys are out for Houston, it's going to be Martin for me. Yeah, favorite value plays. I think the Cleveland guys look pretty good. It pains me to say, but I think those guys look pretty solid. You got James Johnson. I think is decent. Bledsoe's for sure viable. Probably plays over 30 minutes. It's had a couple upside games. I'm perfectly fine going to Bledsoe. Ruri or Wade. If price doesn't matter, Ruri, but I think both are pretty good value plays. Gallo, the only issue is DeAndre Hunter's in, so he might not play as much. I think he's a fine tournament play. Thoughts on Bledsoe? Perfectly fine play in the mid-range. Has upside. Good GPP play. Do you mind saying a little late so we can see? Yeah. I can show you guys. Well, it usually takes a minute or two. We'll see how long it takes. Ruri or KJ Martin? Right now it's Ruri, but I will say if all those Houston guys are out, I'm going to try to play KJ Martin for sure. Gobert over JV. Yeah, if you want to play Gobert over JV, perfectly fine. I just would rather get to the guy that actually has an offensive game. Like, Gobert's a good player, but just more out there for his defense. He's got to have one of those games where he has like 5 block shots to have the really big upside. Yeah, sushi or pizza, it's sushi for me over pizza for sure. Yeah, well, I just got paid out for the best ball. So that was a $5,000 payout. Yeah, Capella or Nurk for Turney, Nurkic. Westbrook, Dotson, James Johnson, Sabonis, Hayes, Bledsoe, Wade, Bogdan, Bogdanovic. Good for tournaments, yeah. I think Sabonis is only GPP play. I think I would rather get 2 other stars in this one for cash. Ruri or Wade. Rui, if price doesn't matter. Like both, though. Westbrook, Bledsoe, Sexton, Sumner, Wade, Rui, Hayes, Lillard, Turney. It's definitely contrarian. But I think everything there is upside. Connaughton, not for me. I'm not really looking at any other Bucks. Westbrook, Dotson, Tate, Rui, Wade. Yeah, that's good to me as well. Playing Wade and Varejao together. Varejao is pretty risky, right? I don't know if he plays a ton, but they do have a 9-man rotation. Like, he's actually not a bad point per minute guy. So I'm good at that. Westbrook, Sexton, Ingles, Wade, Bledsoe, Bertans, Augustine, Cash. I'm just trying to think, like, do I play Sexton and Cash? Do I play Augustine? I'm a little bit worried about Sexton. I just don't love the play for Cash. And Augustine as well, because he didn't play a ton of minutes. Nurkic, again, I don't know if I play him in cash games either. The game is blowout risk. I think there's other ways to go for cash games. Ruri or KJ, and right now it's Ruri, but I'm going to probably prioritize KJ if all those Rockets guys are out. Wade or Bertans, give me Dean Wade, I guess, but they're pretty similar plays. Cantor, Cash. Probably can't get doing cash games. I like the upset for tournaments, though. If I'm playing Nurkic, should I make my build running it back with the Houston guys? Probably. Because that's where you got to consider. It's like, all right, if that game stays close, you're going to see a couple big games from those Rockets value, assuming Wood and Olynyk are out. So I probably play at least one guy, run it back if I'm taking the shot at Nurkic. Wade or okay, I already answered that. JV or Capella, JV. Rudy Gay or Rui for me. All but Atlanta Bogdanovic viable. Yeah, for tournaments. I think everyone's going to go Westbrook and Trae Young. I think the Westbrook-Bogdanovic pairing looks decent. You're saving a couple $1,000. Top stars for cash. Well, obviously Westbrook. I think Trae Young's playable in cash games too, just because that game looks so appealing. And then you got Giannis. I think is cash game viable. So probably those 3 stars. Could you make the argument for Steph and cash? I don't know if I'm playing in a cash game setting, but for tournaments, I'm good with it. So probably, the 2 guards in Westbrook, Atlanta, and then Giannis, I think, are the cash game spend-ups. Nurkic or JV? Yeah, for me, it's JV just because I'm more confident that game stays close. But I like both for tournament center plays. Ruri or Hayes? I think it's Ruri for a cash game setting. If you want to take a shot in Hayes for tournaments, that's perfectly fine. Portland will crush Rockets, play Houston bench. Yeah, there's obviously the bullet risk for sure. So I have Russ and Ruri and JV. Should I spend the extra $200 for Capella to run it back or leave it? I have Nurkic and utility as well. You don't have to bring it back for Capella now. Can you play Westbrook, Ruri, and Bertans? Yeah, I think that's perfectly fine, right? Because Beal being out is massive. Like, someone's got to score the ball. Rui's obviously going to get a big boost. Bertans is probably going to get more shots. I'm perfectly fine playing all 3 of those guys. Lamb or Lonnie Walker. Right now, I will say Lonnie Walker, but if everyone's out for Houston, then it's pretty much a toss-up for me because Lamb, even though he's not the best point per guy, should play big minutes. Curry, Bogdan, and Dotson, or Trey, Ingles, and Gallinari. That's a tough one. I'll go the first one. Thoughts on Gallinari? In play for tournaments, my only concern is DeAndre Hunter is back, so maybe loses a couple extra minutes. Would you play Sumner? A fine contrarian value play. He did play 30 in overtime, so if we get 25 to 30, a fair GPP play. Since Melo's out, is Nasir Little viable? Probably not, unless you're playing for the blowout, which you could. But I think if I'm playing for the blowout, like if you're taking that narrative and you're thinking the game blows out, I'm probably playing Cantor. Westbrook, Ingles, Dotson, Ruri, JV, Bledsoe, Dean Wade, Nurkic. No issue with that. Obviously, it's GPP lineup, but it has upside for sure. Neto at shooting guard with Russ. That's fine. Minutes. I'm not convinced he plays 35, so that there's a little bit of worry there, but I think Neto's perfectly fine play. 4,700 for utility. All right, winding down here, guys. Got to get out of here in the next minute. 4,700 for utility. Yeah, so it's probably going to be James Johnson for me. I think we get 25 to 30 minutes from him. All right, Cabin Galley Love, a viable tournament play. Let's see, where are we at? 93,000, so unfortunately not getting a pack for Top Shot. Oh, well, it is what it is. All right, guys, so that's going to do it for me. Let's refresh, see if we got any more updates, and I will call it a day. Appreciate everyone coming to check it out. Again, we hit over 100 likes, 121 with over 400 viewers or close to 400 viewers. So appreciate the support as always, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll be back here tomorrow. So I'll see you guys all then.